Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Drake C. Toll with us, locked on Big 12. We're going to talk a little bit about that very conference, the Big 12, today in our video presented by BetUS. We'll give them some love in a little bit. Drake, Coach Prime, certainly not any kind of stranger to promotion. And he had a pretty good little tweet with a lot of interesting news, stats, facts about the Alamo Bowl. Did the Alamo Bowl break college football?
This is the best bowl game college football has seen in over a decade outside of the college football playoff, which you usually wouldn't call those bowl games. You would call those the CFP. And an example of that in a top 25 matchup, not a top 10 matchup or a top 15 matchup, a top 25 matchup, 17 BYU, 23 Colorado. Its attendance was the number one most attended game of all non-college football playoff games. Absolutely sold out and took over San Antonio. 8 million TV viewers, the most watched Alamo Bowl in history, highest viewership for any non-college football playoff game in the last 5 years, $57 million in an economic impact and local scholarships over $1.2 million and $9.5 million combined team payout, the largest in Alamo Bowl history. This broke what we know about college football bowl games. What BYU and Colorado, Deion Sanders, just did is reset the expectations for what bowls can be. And guess what? To you, to me, TJ, who won the 2024 Valero Alamo Bowl? Who won the 2022 one? 2019 Texas Bowl. How about the 2018 Cheez-It Bowl? We don't know. We don't know. We only know who played in the college football playoff. But this one was different. We will look back and say, in an era where all bowl games are dead and there's no way to revive it, and the college football playoff has killed everything that we know and love about the bowl season, these two schools proved that it just means more in the SEC, but everything's bigger in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because it's not just who was watching, but who was playing. Everyone played in this game. They actually cared about it. It's funny that we get paid to sit here and talk about college football, right? And half of the people who I feel like cover college football don't even like the sport because all they do is crap on the sport or talk down about the sport or, December is completely meaningless unless you're in these last 12 teams. That narrative got broken because guess what? College football still matters. It is now January and we have one college football game left. And you know what I miss, Drake? College football. Yeah. I would watch a million meaningless bowl games here in January and February if I could just get college football. I was watching the NFL playoffs all weekend. Just not the same. I miss college football. And again, I think that Deion Sanders, Sitake, everybody involved, not just one person, kind of did restore a little bit of the faith in, okay, maybe these games do matter.
Yeah. What I do think you've established in the perspective of college, we talk about breaking college football or changing college football, loving the sport itself, while national analysts don't. What you cannot deny from this game is that now these are the two biggest brands in the Big 12. What they just proved is other Big 12 teams have played in the Valero Alamo Bowl. Texas has played in the Alamo Bowl a couple of times in the last few seasons. And even then, could not touch what these schools did. And there are plenty of SEC teams that play in bowl games. Arkansas playing in the Liberty Bowl or Miami playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. And even those games couldn't draw what the Alamo Bowl did from an economic standpoint, from a TV standpoint, from a fanfare standpoint with butts in seats. That's crazy. We're not talking about SEC teams here. Again, it's not number 7 versus number 8 squaring off in a 40. That's the deal, TJ. We're comparing this game to years in which there were top 10 matchups when there was a 4-team college football playoff. And this boat races even those. And in a lot of those games, there were so many opt-outs because SEC players think that their NIL and contract is up after the regular season ends, and they just kind of give up on the whole college football thing. This was a new tone setter for what college football can be in the bowl season just by simply respecting college football. There are, Paul Fine, you turn on Feinbaum, and Feinbaum talking about, the entire roster for ex-SEC teams out. Arkansas is going to sit out for their bowl game. And Feinbaum's like, well, this is a business decision. This is good. And overall, this is great for the players, and it doesn't hurt the sport. It does hurt the sport. It hurts viewership. It hurts attendance. There's a reason that most of these bowl games don't have anybody there. The Alamo Bowl was different. And again, what that proves is BYU and Colorado are the top two brands in the Big 12 right now. One has the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as they're the flagship of one of the fastest growing faiths in the world. The other has Deion Sanders. And those two things combined to create the perfect storm in college football to prove that this SEC excuse, all of these, we didn't want to actually play, those are all complete BS and unreasonable.
I'll get right back to chatting with Drake, but first I do want to tell you about our friends over at BetUS. Make sure you're using our code YouTube150 for a 150% sign-up bonus all the way through the NFL playoffs. We've got March Madness coming up here in a couple of months. Whatever you're betting on, make sure you're betting with BetUS. YouTube150 gets you 150% on your first bonus, 125% on your next two, all of that up to $2,000. Make sure BetUS is who you're betting with today. Do you think it potentially changes, at least for the Big 12, maybe the ACC, maybe some other programs too? I will say this, and to back up a little bit, some even SEC programs like actually do care. And a lot of times it has to do with how your season ends. Yeah. For Florida, for example, I'm never going to give Florida a ton of love. All their guys opted into this game. Yeah. Nobody opted out. Nobody quit. Nobody opted out at halftime. Now, a lot of that has to do with if your quarterback plays, mostly everybody else plays. Yeah. And so Lagway played and they went. But there are some programs that seem like they care. And I'll never care about like the transfer portal opt-outs. Like once you've left the program, I get it, right? Most of the coaches aren't going to let you play anyway. But there are some programs that seem like they care. And there's some that certainly didn't, right? They just said, look, we're out. We're not doing this. Yeah. But do you think it maybe changes things? Maybe not in the grand scheme of college football, because that team that finishes 13th is always going to feel slighted. But even there, as much crap as we give Lane Kiffin, all their guys suited up. All their guys took it personally and actually played in the bowl game. So do you think that some of what we saw in the bowl season this year, I know it was just for a half, but Cam Ward played. Do you think that we start to see that more and more in bowl season?
Yeah, it varies by year. I don't think since COVID we have seen a bowl year like we did this season. There were some very competitive games. I look at even on the Big 12 slate, Texas Tech is within a couple of points of Arkansas rallying back. They could have given up. Well, who cares about the Liberty Bowl? Again, in 10 years, we won't remember who won the 2024 Liberty Bowl, and we won't remember that Kansas State beat Rutgers in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, I think is what it was. There's really no reason once you get down 3 scores to come back and compete. But we've seen teams do that this bowl season, and watching Nebraska compete in a bowl game, or Boston College, or UConn. I mean, there's so many of these schools that are like, you know what? Let's go play our bowl game. Let's all this BS the last few years of give up on the bowl. And it reminds me of like 2021, Dan Mullen comes to the podium and they said, Dan, you lost your bowl game. And he said, well, that wasn't our Florida Gator team out there. Like, Dan, don't say that. That's not okay. For if you got the real like potential in the future that was on the field, and you just said that those weren't the Florida Gators. That was the tone I think a lot of national coaches set, and now we're starting to change that. Even Lane Kiffin, you're mentioning, is somebody who said, all right, we'll play the bowl game. We'll prove that we should have been there, and he talked so much he needed to prove that. And I do believe a new precedent has been set, or a precedent has been reset, that bowls have to matter moving forward. If you win them, you get more money for your conference, you get more money for your school. And weird to me, it took 2 Big 12 teams playing each other to reset that tone. And obviously, like you said, TJ, from Cam Ward on, there were players who made decisions that affected the national, or had national impact on bowl season. But this one, untouched. 2 Big 12 teams against one another, untouched when it comes to how bowls were seen this year.
Maybe the Alamo Bowl didn't break college football's bowl season. Maybe Coach Prime and Kalani Sitake and these programs fixed college football bowl season, or at least set us on a path to fix it. And I don't know how NIL can get creative with this, how we can maybe reward guys that feel like they're risking things. Obviously, Coach Prime with the insurance policies that they took out for the risk that their guys were taking. But yeah, maybe it's more of a fix and breaking of something that was broken. They broke what was broken to fix it.
Yeah. No doubt. And that's, again, 2 Big 12 teams at the forefront of that. This wasn't an SEC versus Big 10 matchup in the bowl season that saved college football. It was Kalani Sitake, Shedeur Sanders, the Buffs, the Cougs. They got it done.
Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work for more Big 12 hype?
Yeah, at Hello Big 12 on Twitter, or at Drake C. Toll on the same platform, and wherever you find your podcast with Locked On Big 12.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Absolutely.
Appreciate Drake C. Toll for joining me. Locked On Big 12. Make sure you go check out his content. We'll link it all down in the description. Appreciate BetUS for their support as well. If you felt any type of way about this content, you loved it, hated it, couldn't stand it, or want more, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of college football addiction.